My name is Megan Rayfuse. I am a therapist and co-founder of Shift Collab, and I am so excited to introduce you tonight to Olivia. Olivia is a registered psychotherapist here at Shift Collab, and honestly, I'm also so excited to be here tonight because it is my favorite topic, ADHD. I am also an ADHDer, and so I am here for the learning. I'm here for the dialogue, and I can't wait to get to connect with each of you. So, thank you so much, everyone, for joining. And Olivia, why don't you kick us off?
All righty then. Okay. So, once again, welcome to our very first Shift Collab ADHD clinic workshop. As Megan said, my name's Olivia Vander Vloet. I'm a registered psychotherapist as well as a certified Canadian addiction counselor here at Shift Collab. I'm excited to be one of the therapists on our brand new ADHD team. And I just want to start tonight saying, this workshop is a space to explore your brain with curiosity instead of shame. Your focus might wander. That's why we're here. So that's totally okay. You're exactly where you need to be. And thank you for being here today. We're so glad that you could make it. So, we've got a few things we're going to go through today, touch on a few different topics. So, we'll start with a bit about neuroaffirming care, view some of the impacts of ADHD and how therapy can help you, and then we'll get into a few tools that you can start using today. So, to get us started, let's get to know how ADHD shows up in our lives. So, share 3 words in the chat that describe how ADHD shows up in your life. For me, I would say it's work, friends, and I use a lot of the strategies myself. So, strategies. Let's see what we have in our chat. Life, absolutely, right? Like, how do you narrow it down to anything else? Awesome. Creativity, I love that. Friendships, our relationships with our partners, lots of different ways that it impacts us. Megan, you're saying motherhood, I bet. And sleep for sure. That's a big one. Awesome. Thank you guys for sharing. Let's get into it a little bit more. So at Shift Collab, we practice neuroaffirming care. We see all brains as amazing. So the way that it's going to show up when you interact with members of our team, for example, or with people in all different places that practice neuroaffirming care. With our care team interactions, we do multiple contact methods. We can phone, we can email, we can text, whatever your communication preference is. We can provide written summaries of important information that we discussed verbally so that you can reference it again later. In your therapy sessions, we always encourage fidget toys, stimming behaviors during session without judgment. I have a whole basket myself, and I think I pulled out 3 already for tonight. One of which is simply a cork. So it doesn't have to be fancy. You can buy one that's $50 on Amazon, or you can buy a bag of corks, whatever works for you. In my practice, I use a lot of visual aids, diagrams, and I often will offer written notes, not necessarily the notes I take in session, but a summary that we come up with at the end of our session to email to you after so you can follow up and you don't have to try and write notes while we're talking and do all of that. I always welcome support animals and pets. I want to meet all your pets. It's so fun. And you get to meet my pets too often. Scheduling, we do appointment reminders in multiple formats and intervals. And we try and work with scheduling accommodations, consistent appointment time, specific time of day. I also really encourage booking appointments at the end of our session so that we don't forget to go on and book later. In my therapeutic approach, one of my favorite things to do in neuroaffirming care is incorporate special interests into our therapy when it's relevant and helpful. So a few things that I've gotten to bring into my care has been, I've got folks who like to bring in tarot cards and we use those. I've got some guys that have been teaching me about Dungeons and Dragons, so I've brought some of that in. And I do a lot of music therapy. And I do a lot of music therapy with metal and punk music, whatever music you're into, but I seem to attract other punk music lovers. So that's where we go often. Let's do a quick review of ADHD. So it's a brain-based condition that affects focus, impulse control, and organization. It varies widely in presentation and often overlaps with other mental health or learning differences. Most importantly, it is not a flaw and it is not a failure. So let's talk about executive functioning, because I think this is something that is starting to be talked about a lot more. It's coming out on TikTok, or you might hear it as executive dysfunction. So these are the skills that you use to manage your everyday tasks, like making plans, solving problems, adapting to new situations. So as you can see on our executive functioning wheel here, we love a good wheel. We have things like inhibition, cognitive flexibility, initiation, planning and organization, organizing our materials, time management, emotional control, and our working memory. So lots of different ways that our executive function helps us. And with ADHD, the executive function can be one of the main challenges. So ADHD can be accompanied by challenges in many other areas of life, and often is. So it might include our relationships, mood issues like depression, anxiety, and a tendency towards perfectionism and burnout. We might have difficulty managing the structures within, say, school or a workplace, or just some of the structures within the healthcare system or society in general. So it's important to note that any therapist working with an ADHDer has the experience and awareness of these multiple areas of life, and knowing that they're interconnected. So we find it's really important to zoom in on focused goals to create change, growth, and progress, and zoom out to look at the impact across all functional areas of life. So it's a bit of a switch back and forth between the different focuses, depending on what we're looking at. So today's topic is, so I've been diagnosed with ADHD, now what? So I imagine we've got a few in the crowd who might have a brand new diagnosis, or are maybe going through the diagnostic process right now. But these are all things that we might feel throughout our life with ADHD. When we get our diagnosis, we often will think, perfect, I've got the answer to all my problems. It's been ADHD the whole time. And then like a million more questions start rolling in, and emotions, and it's so much all at once. We feel the initial relief and validation, that we feel like we have some sort of answer. Even just having a label can be helpful. But then we can get overwhelmed. We don't know what to do next. We don't know where to go. Where do we find answers? Do I go to TikTok? Do I go to therapy? Do I just sit here frozen? Because that's probably what's happening. Grief is a very common reaction. And I think one of the most common things that I hear from my newly diagnosed clients is the question of, wait, so what parts of me are ADHD symptoms and what part of me are actually my personality? I know we all have that friend, or we might be that friend who has gotten the reputation of they're always late. They're running on Olivia time, let's say. And then it feels like that becomes our personality is the late person. But really, it's a symptom. So some kind of questions about our identity and things like that can come up as well. So, what about therapy then? Therapy can have many benefits for ADHDers. Perhaps if you have a new diagnosis, therapy can be helpful in identifying and setting personal, professional, academic goals while discovering how your ADHD has been impacting them. It can support you in learning what accommodations might be available at your school and your workplace and how to advocate for yourself to get the support that you need. Therapy can also help you in improving your communication skills, build routines, improve focus and impulse control. Think like spending, substance use, those kinds of things. You might be thinking, what about the medication piece? Because we all know about the medication piece. Medication is often recommended post-diagnosis to support the treatment of our symptoms. We support whatever our client decides regarding their choice of medication. So although we as therapists don't prescribe, we're familiar with the ways medication is supposed to help, and we can help you advocate with your prescribers or even just make that decision on whether or not you want to pursue medication. There's a variety of approaches that therapists might use to support ADHDers. We usually mix a few together to meet your personal individualized needs. So a few up here on the screen that you might have heard about, a little alphabet soup, as we like to call it. Cognitive behavioral therapy really looks at how shifting our thoughts can impact our feelings and behaviors. Motivational interviewing supports you in building and maintaining motivation. Dialectical behavior therapy can help us find the balance between our emotional mind and our logical mind. And acceptance and commitment therapy can support you in making values-based decisions, among many other things for all of those, but a few examples. So if you've never been to therapy before, or you've had a not so great experience like I did in university, I said, I can't keep up with my work. And the therapist looked at me and said, no, I think you're just lazy. And then I didn't go to therapy for about a year. So you might have had that experience. You might just think, why am I going to pay somebody to just listen to me talk? Or they didn't help me before. They just listened and tried to comfort me, but they didn't help me do anything. So I'm here to promise you that therapy at Shift Collab, but therapy in general, is not just talk. We want to help you learn new tools to grow in your natural skills and strengths because they've gotten you this far already. Therapy can help us understand the relationships between our thoughts, feelings, and actions. We want to help you notice patterns, practice skills that can help you manage deadlines, overwhelm, those kinds of things. One of the biggest things I talk about in my practice is the importance of celebrating success or progress, because success is progress, not perfection, even though I'm sure all of us would love the perfection piece. But as somebody once told me when I started in the counseling world, if you were perfect, that would mean you knew everything. And if you knew everything, you'd never learn something new again. And what a boring life that would be. So we deserve to reward ourselves for the hard work that we're doing. It helps to solidify the progress that we've made and gives us a foundation to learn that next new skill. You might wonder a little bit about how therapy can help you outside of, say, the classroom or the workplace, because those are often places that challenges come up and bring us to this point. So, like we said, we can help you learn how to better manage emotions, practice communication to build stronger relationships, and identify values that can help guide our decision-making process. So, with therapy, we often will think that you go to therapy for 50 minutes once a week, every couple weeks, and that's that. That's therapy. But the reality is, most of therapy and the important parts happen outside of the session, practicing new ways of thinking and doing. So we want to give you the tools right away to learn to do the things that help you thrive. One of my main goals in my practice for a first session is to give you something that you can leave with and try out, because it's so hard to come and share your story and then feel like you just dumped everything and go, now what, until your next session. So today we're going to talk about 2 tools that are simple and effective ways that a therapist can work with a client in supporting them in learning these tools. They can be used independently on your own. We have them up on our website, on our ADHD clinic page, but we can't stress enough how much more the shared accountability of working alongside a therapist can accelerate learning and keep you on track. So tools like this work in tandem with the strategies and skills of the types of therapy that we discussed a little bit earlier. So I'm going to start with one of my favorite ones, which is a priority matrix. One of the big things about the priority matrix is that it's both a tool and a method of support to help make decisions, complete tasks, and manage time. So I'm going to explain it a little bit, but there's a visual on the next slide because I also need all the visuals. So there's 4 quadrants when it comes to the priority matrix. We have quadrant 1 being things that are both urgent and important. Quadrant 2, which is important but not urgent. Quadrant 3, which is urgent but not important. And quadrant 4, that is neither urgent or important. They each have an action: do first, schedule, delegate, eliminate. Now, I just said the words urgent and important like a bunch. So let's make sure we understand the difference between urgency and importance, because urgency can often make things feel important even when they're not. So urgent are tasks that demand attention now because of deadlines or emergencies, for example. Things that are important are tasks that contribute to long-term goals and values. So here's our visual. As we said, 4 quadrants. So quadrant 1, we do first, urgent and important. Schedule, not urgent, but important. Delegate, if possible, urgent, but not important. And eliminate or reduce, not urgent, not important. These are things like distractions, basically like the junk mail of your brain. So let's work through an example together. Here is our example. You're a university student with ADHD and you're feeling overwhelmed. So to use the priority matrix, we always start with a to-do list. And I just got distracted by the bullet that's different and my perfectionism is struggling right now. So pretend it's purple and bigger. So here's our task list. We're going to sort them out into the quadrants. So you guys can throw things in the chat and think about as we go what could go where. So in our first quadrant from this list, what might you guys put in there? So quadrant 1, remember, is urgent and important. I want you to, toss it in the chat, see if there's even just one on there that you would throw in that one. Yeah, final paper and eating. Yep, absolutely. Great. What else do we have? Yeah, definitely. Things can be both or either. But yeah, that difference between the two is really interesting to kind of parse out and can be really helpful. Okay, so we got a couple things there that we're going to put in quadrant 1. Room, possibly due to clean space to work in. So yeah, sometimes it might depend on what is important to you. Because remember, importance is about the long-term goals and values. So you'll see in mine, I think that might be in a different quadrant, but I am an untidy person to begin with. So quadrant 1, do first. You guys got it. Final paper due tomorrow and eating something. Responding briefly to a friend. Yes, exactly. Eat first, then study. We will get to that. You are ahead of me. You are on tool number 2, my friend. So the other one in here that you might be a little surprised by is respond briefly to a friend. So this one could actually go in a couple different spots, depending on how it's going to impact you. Is it a text that just says, hey, look at this funny meme? Okay, we can probably schedule that for later, do something with that later. If this is a text that maybe is like, hey, I'm having a really hard time right now, could use somebody to talk to, that might be something that's really distracting and is going to really impact your ability to regulate your emotions. And that'll probably stand in the way of you trying to do the other things. So we might want to respond briefly there, go, glad you reached out. I have a paper due tomorrow. Would you like to get lunch after? And then that is out of the way, but it's also not going to take over the time that you need right now. So let's think about what we might put in quadrant 2. So I'm going to go back to our list here for a second for you guys. Throw in the chat what you guys might want to put in quadrant 2. Quadrant 2 is schedule. That is important, but not urgent. What do we think? Class reading, therapy homework, applying to internships, absolutely. Laundry for sure. Cleaning. Okay, we've got a few different options here. Again, we're still in the important category here. So again, we're going to see some things that might be a little bit different that you might put in that quadrant, but I maybe put in a different one. So there's no right or wrong answers for the most part here. So not urgent but important schedule. We have therapy homework, apply to those internships, tidy your room, and doing some class reading. So laundry has moved into a different spot here, but I see laundry about 3 times on my second screen right now already. So I'm going to say that a lot of you, laundry is going to go in that quadrant, and that's totally fair. So again, I'm going to go back to our little list here. We're going to go into quadrant 3. Quadrant 3 is urgent, but not important. We're really stressed about cleaning, apparently. Well, I mean, a cluttered space can feel like a cluttered mind, too. Absolutely. I wonder if it's one of the things that many of us have felt the shame of why can everybody else keep their space clean and mine's always a mess? So yeah, I feel like that's really important to a lot of us. Absolutely. Yeah, urgent but not important is a hard one for sure. Okay, let's see what we've got in there then. Delegate. So this is where perfect, Kate. Yes, absolutely. Sorry, friend. I guess I'm thinking drama isn't super important right now. Exactly. We can delegate this. We can let them know I'm going to check in later. And maybe we're going to ask a roommate to give us a hand with a task if possible. We're really stressed about the cleaning. So maybe that's something we can talk to our roommate about and see, hey, can you give me a hand here? Is there something we can do together? Awesome. Okay, let's look at our last quadrant then. I'm going to go back to our list one more time. See what do we have left here. Netflix. Yeah, absolutely. Perfect. Okay. Yeah. So this is a great example where because there's a few that some of us would put in slightly different quadrants, for most of you, Netflix is probably going to be the only one. Totally fair. You can't remember which ones we've used, which ones we haven't. ADHD. Absolutely. Okay, so let's see what we have in quadrant 4 then. Netflix, scrolling TikTok, um, and laundry, unless you're out of clothes. Absolutely. Yeah. Can we put that away for now until we can really get back to it? It might be something that, in our reduce part, perhaps that's, coming up with a bit of a system for our laundry, or maybe it actually ends up in the delegate. Perhaps you have the ability to go to a fluff and fold and have them wash them and fold them, and you just have to pick it up. Sometimes we pay for the convenience if it's in our budget. Pay for the help. It's okay to do so. Okay, so let's roll in to our next tool then. So we're wrapping up with the priority matrix. Again, Eve shared this in the chat for you, and it's on our webpage, so you're welcome to grab that and start using it yourself. So our next one is a task tracker. So this is a tool that's going to help us manage our time and energy to ensure that we can get to the things that matter the most to us, those important things, right? So we're going to take the same tasks that we were using before, and we're going to add them into our task tracker. So this one I did a little bit differently. So I just grabbed a couple of examples and put them in here for you guys. So this is our task, our time management, and our task tracker. Again, available on the website. Eve's going to throw it in the chat for you guys too, so you can find that. So our time management and task tracker has a sheet for each day of the week, Monday through Sunday. So you have all of those there on their own sheet. What we're going to do here is we're going to list the task name. So what are the things that we need to do? And based on our priority matrix, we can figure out what day of the week we might want to schedule this on. So this is where one of you guys was ahead of me and you're thinking, okay, how would I order those within the quadrant? So if your brain works really well that way, you can do that right in your quadrant, but this gives us a little bit more to work with when we make our list. So it's not just like this to-do list again. So we'll throw our task name in there. Then we're going to categorize it. Is it work or school? Is it personal? Is it like admin stuff or health or social? The reason why we want to use the category is so that we can, group categorize those things together. But we can also use that to find out, okay, what is important to me and what's not. If we're finding that, the work stuff is always on Monday, well, we're prioritizing that then. And that must be important to us. The next piece that I really love is support. So we're going to plan ahead here. Who, what do you need? What skill would help you? So our workshop next week, you get to hang out with me again if you come on out. We're going to go through a bunch of tools and skills as well. So there's some on here that might be a little bit of a sneak peek into next week's workshop as well, that you can come on back to if you're curious to learn more about them. Then we've got a little yes, no box. We like it as a box instead of a little check box because maybe you got partway through. So you can kind of jot down there, I'm half done. I need to go back and do this part. So let's take a look-see and see what we've thrown in to here and what that might look like. So I did a couple examples of, say, a Monday and a Tuesday so that you guys could see how we might use the priority matrix within this. So here's an example of the Monday one. So remember how we were saying we all probably need to eat something before we write that paper? Absolutely. So we have that listed first on here. That is priority number one. That is related to our health or our heath, apparently, as I typed in there earlier today, health. And support, what can we use for support? So for example, I have these lovely little meal prep containers. Of course, I got them on Amazon that are like pre-portioned, and I love them because they look like the little, do you guys remember when we were kids and you could get the little things with the cheese whiz and the crackers and the little red stick or the little breadsticks? They look like a big adult version of that. So I often will have a stack of those in my fridge that has hummus, pretzels, carrots, whatever. They're pre-made, they're ready to go. I can just grab them. Again, this is where we might pay a little bit for the convenience. Are we going to buy a whole melon and actually eat it? I mean, probably not. I don't know how many melons I've thrown out in my life that I just never cut into because it felt like a lot of work to cut the melon up. So what we can do is pay for that little convenience if it's in your budget, and we can buy that pre-cut fruit. Even though we know, the Dutch in me, it's not the value of it. It'd be cheaper if I bought the whole melon. I'm not going to eat the melon, so I'm just going to throw it out anyway. I'm going to buy it pre-cut. So we've eaten. There we go. Now we're going to look at our next task here. So our final paper is due tomorrow. That's a school category. And in here, we're thinking about what do we need and what can we do to support ourselves here. So you're going to need your computer, get your chargers out. The number of times that I like go upstairs with my computer and then it dies and I have to go look for my charger is just too many. Let's get those chargers with us from the get-go. You might use the Pomodoro technique, which some of you might have heard of already. We're going to go over it next week. And for that technique, you would need a timer or a website that you like that works best for you. Oh, yes, I love my other duchies here. Welcome, welcome. So the other thing that we can use is if we're at school, what resources do we have available to us? Access that writing center. They'll help you edit it. They'll help you make sure the grammar is correct so you're not missing those, couple of points here and there or grammar or an incorrect citation, because you don't need to lose those points. We've got support that can help you make sure that they're all in there. We haven't completed that final paper yet, but we've eaten something and we're getting there. Let's take a look-see and see what we're going to do on Tuesday then. So if we see here, this is our schedule box. This is quadrant 2 that I moved into Tuesday here. We're going to do our therapy homework. For me, I consider that kind of personal, health. You might consider it just health or personal. It's all up to you. Support. What am I going to need? I'm going to get worksheets. I'm going to get my journal. I'm going to pick out my favorite pen, and I'm probably going to make myself a tea and get a cozy blanket and set myself up to do this and make it the most comfy I can be, even if I'm going to have to touch the little feelings I don't really want to be touching. We've done our therapy homework. Yes. Woohoo. Awesome. So what's next on here? Applying to internships. That's a school thing. You might also put work in there. What do we need? Again, computer, bring those chargers. And then again, this is a school thing. What supports are set up for us already? Go to the Career Center, access the Career Center. I know I went to Georgian College to do my postgrad, and they literally had the Ontario Jobs, whatever it's called, right in our school building. So it was so easy to just go and grab that support. Tidying our room. Personal. Here's the one that gets me. I need to pick out a playlist or a podcast episode ahead of time, or I'm going to sit there and just try and pick the perfect one for an hour. Let's pick them out ahead of time. I'm going to grab a bunch of baskets and garbage bags because I like to use a basket method when I'm tidying. And I might even, ask a friend to come over and body double with me, have them maybe help me out, or maybe they just have some homework to do and they can hang out and do homework while I tidy. Again, we'll talk about body doubling and some of those basket methods next week. Haven't done that yet, but it's on our tracker, so we know we're going to come back to it. So, a couple examples of how you might use the time management and task tracker pieces. We have one more piece of it that is our weekly reflection. So at the end of the week, we can come back, we can celebrate those successes, what went well, don't forget to reward yourself. We're going to look at what were the obstacles. Where did you feel stuck, overwhelmed, bored? Did you have some decision paralysis? Did you notice any patterns that say, no, I've noticed that having those pre-made snacks was really helpful. When I didn't have them, I tend to not eat. Maybe we noticed that tidying the kitchen seemed much easier than tidying our bedroom for some reason. So I love the weekly reflection because you can literally just fill this out, bring it to our session and be like, okay, this is what went well. We're going to celebrate you. This is where we got stuck. What can we do to help with that? And what have you learned about yourself this week? But it's all right there, written down, so that when I ask you, what's been going on? How did that go? You don't forget everything you've ever learned in life. We've got it written down in front of us. So those are the two tools that we're going to go over today. As we said, they are in the chat, they are on our website, so feel free to grab them and start working on some of them yourself. And of course, if you're already set up with a therapist, bring them into session. And if you want to get set up with a therapist, then we can help you do that as well. We want to talk a little bit about how we do things here at Shift Collab. So as I was saying, in my practice, I really want to make sure that you have something tangible to go and really start working on from your first session. So we have kind of 3 phases of therapy when we think about it. We have what we call momentum, which is our first couple sessions. We say sessions 1 to 3-ish, but plus or minus 1 or 2 for any of these kind of session numbers. Don't stress about those. So sessions 1 to 3-ish, those starter sessions, we're going to start with clarity and small wins that stick. So we want to start to find out what are some of those patterns for ourselves. How is it showing up? And we're going to start with some of these tools like the priority matrix, the task tracker. We might talk about some of those little strategies that were within that task tracker that we didn't get to this week. This is where we're going to set our goals. They're personalized and they need to feel doable, not overwhelming. And that is our job to help you find out what that's going to be. So don't stress. You don't have to come in and show up with like, these are my goals and exactly what I want to do. You can show up and go, I'm not really sure, but I know that my ADHD is causing me some challenges and I want to work on it. Then we're going to move into shift. And that's kind of the middle chunk of our therapy. We're going to build with structure that works for you. This is where we're going to work on that executive function, those day-to-day task pieces. We might look at some specific challenges like that task paralysis. I talk a lot about rejection sensitivity with my clients as well. We're going to keep building strategies. We're going to expand on strategies, and we're just going to keep tailoring those to your goals. This is how we can stay consistent to have your therapist as your accountability partner, kind of in the meat of it all, in that middle chunk where we're building all of those skills and strategies together. Then we're going to move into Thrive. This is kind of our ongoing support. You might spread your sessions out a little bit. I've got some folks that, we've gotten to the point where I joke that I see them literally quarterly. I see them every couple of months when they have a specific challenge or they just need a check-in. But you've done the work and we're going to help you keep it going. Build routines and systems that actually work. And here's the thing, guys, you're gonna build systems and they're probably gonna work for a while, and then they might not keep working because it's no longer novel for our brain. It wants something fresh and new. So we're gonna come back and we're gonna come up with a new system and a new routine, or just adjust that routine and system a little bit more. For example, we're going to really build our emotional regulation here and really work on the self-advocacy in everyday moments. I see, yes, feeling guilty of falling out of healthy routines. Well, the thing about routine that I really like to talk about is consistency. And we often think that consistency is like showing up at our absolute best every day and doing the thing every day the way that we planned we were going to do it. But no, we want to show up every day with what we have. If I feel like I have 100% of me one day, great, amazing. I'm going to show up with that. if I am struggling and I've only got 50%, maybe I woke up with a migraine. Okay, I've got 50% today. So I'm going to give 100% of that 50% and keep showing up consistently, even if it's not 100%, 100% of the time. So we really love this quote by Ned Hallowell. We're the ones who light the fires, build the things, move fast, and shake things up. The world needs brains like ours. Because let's be real, how much of the world is really run by neurodivergent folks, a little neurospicy folks. Megan has shared herself. She is, our big head honcho here, and she is rocking it with ADHD. And I truly think that that's one of the reasons why Shift is the way that it is and why we can do some of these things, because we need that leadership that's there too. We think about all of the other people. You can't tell me that Einstein wasn't neurodivergent. There's no way. Sometimes things are a little bit different. This is, I work with a lot of tradesmen and I see a lot of that there. But we are a part of the world. And if we weren't here, I think it'd probably be pretty boring, because I know the creativity really comes out. So may we offer you a little bit of support. We want you to help feel that change right away, and find from that first appointment to getting through to those goals and all of those pieces. As I said, my practice, I try to aim to provide you with tangible takeaways starting at that first session, and all of those kinds of things. So you are absolutely welcome to give our little QR code here a scan. We're trying to make it a little bit easier for us. Let's reduce some barriers. And we're offering $50 off your first therapy session with that promo code Hello Summer, because saying yes to support should feel easy. So if you've been feeling stuck, unsure where to begin, or just know it's time for a change, this is your sign. You came out today. You've already taken the first step. So we're happy to help you keep that momentum going by coming on out to a session or continuing to come out to our workshop series the rest of the summer. We're going to learn a lot of new tools next week. You can hang out with me again for an hour. And then we're going to get into some really cool stuff later this summer. I think Sarah is putting on one about self-compassion. And I believe we also have a parenting one later this summer. So yeah, we've got lots of cool stuff coming up that you can access, as well as getting set up for a first session too. So that's what I've got for you guys today. I know you listen to me chat a lot here. I really appreciate it. And yeah, thank you for your participation, guys. That's awesome. Love it when we're actually in the chat and we're not just staring at a blank screen. So thank you so much. We've got a couple minutes left kind of here. If you have any questions, feel free to throw them in the chat, and I can answer them the best that I can. But otherwise, thank you guys so much for coming. We really appreciate it. And we are so excited you're here. Are therapy sessions available to people outside of Ontario? Great question. Yes, we have therapists that can practice across Canada. I myself can practice in most provinces, and I think I've got at least one client in every province and one of the territories, which is really cool. So absolutely we can. Sometimes it depends on the type of therapist that they are. So yeah, sometimes we just have to find the specific therapist for you that can practice there. But yeah, we've got folks all over the country for sure. Any other questions today, guys?
I just want to say thank you so much to Olivia, to everyone who is so engaging in the chat tonight. Um, Olivia is a wonderful clinician, and I know she is offering exceptional care to those living with ADHD and, or just in general need a mental health check in, which therapy can be for too. I am so excited that this was our first workshop for our ADHD clinic that we just launched. We are so excited to support more and more people. And as always, we appreciate everyone who's here. So thank you so much, Olivia. I really, really appreciate it. And I have all these notes and I'm like, okay, I got to get my tracker done. I got to figure out my priority matrix. So I don't know about anyone else here, but the version of me that's excited about me tomorrow, the version of me who thinks I'm more productive tomorrow than I maybe am today, she is ready to do these worksheets. So I am so excited. Thank you,
Absolutely.
Olivia.
Yeah, absolutely. I always say I have a handout for everything. So I love a good worksheet. There was another life that I thought I might be a teacher. So here we go. Just we can get excited and get working on some